Hey guys, welcome back. This is David, and I'm going to show you how to do some AutoCAD commands from our primary commands Word document. These are not a comprehensive list of commands, but the basics that we think you need to know, and if you can practice these couple pages of commands and do them well, then you'll be able to draft efficiently. So in the very beginning, you should be practicing these commands every day until you learn them all efficiently, and let's learn. Hey guys, welcome back. Here you'll see our primary commands drafting list. We have these categorized into a few different sections. So we've got the standard drafting commands that come with AutoCAD. Some of these quick keys we've swapped around as we see fit. I think C used to be circle, but we use copy more, so we changed that. Then we have a list of custom Lisp commands. We'll go through those. And then we have some custom mouse functions, and then an toolbar up at the top, and these describe what the toolbar does, and then some commands related to our sheet sets and setting up your drawing. So first I'm going to show you our custom mouse functions. These are really cool. You press Control and middle button and it'll just start a line. And you can just draw a line anywhere you want. The second one is Shift middle button, and that toggles ortho. So if I press that, now it's only going to go orthogonally. If I press it again, it's going to go back to anywhere I want. And then Control Shift middle button sets the UCS to any line that you're at. If you don't select anything, it'll toggle through any saved UCSs or just go back to world. So that's that. If you hold Control and press the middle button close to the endpoint of a line, it will snap to that endpoint there. Otherwise, it would just kind of start from wherever your cursor is. So now let's jump forward to the basic commands, and we'll go through them. If the command is a little bit more involved, we may just do a separate video. So the align command is that video. We made a special video for that because it's a little bit more. A for arc, you simply just draw a line like that. You could also do a start point, hit E for end, and then either pick your radius or D for your direction. So there's a number of ways you can draw some arcs. Audit, we want to use the commands purge end, which gets rid of any entities in your drawing that don't have specific objects. And then when you do that, you want to run audit after the words and hit yes to correct the errors. And so that helps clean up your drawing. Some drawings, see this one had 32 errors. Some drawings continually generate more errors than others. And so if you find that when you run audit it has errors, kind of get used to running audit at a pace, maybe twice a day or 4 times a day, where you're not getting many errors, maybe only 1 or 2 errors at a time. But if every time you run audit there are a bunch of errors, you need to run it more frequently. BP is a command for bpoly, and this command creates boundary lines inside of areas. So BP, if I pick points, and it found this point, and so it just made a new polyline inside that area. So a lot of times we might use that for measuring impervious areas and things like that. Copy command, draw a line, C to copy. Now you'll note that some of these commands have an asterisk next to them. That's very important because if you go down to the end, these commands commands can have the object selected first and then the command ran to perform that task on the object. Commands without an asterisk, the command should be run first before selecting anything, then further actions taken. So there are some options with some of these, but I put that asterisk in there for to let you know the way that I like to do it. So I'll usually grab the object I want to copy first and then run the copy command. And a lot of times I'll hit C and then I'll hit spacebar for enter, since my hand is right by that spacebar, and then I can pick the base point and then the destination point. Okay, CR is for circle. Pick the middle button. You can scale it out however you want, or you could type 10 and it makes it 10. E is for erase. You grab something, E, enter. Same as hitting delete. You can grab this and hit the delete button. F for fillet. So if you have two lines like this and you want to fill it in between, F, and then it asks you for the radius. I hit R, I want to select the radius. I want this to be 100, and then I pick these two lines. A better way to do it, we have some pre-made, so instead of making multiple selections, we have this one for a no trim fillet and that one for a trim fillet. So if I click this and then just hit 100, it's just going to do like that, and it doesn't trim, but it adds the fillet. If I do this one, that's a trim fillet, I'll do 300, and I pick this one and that one, it trims it off and makes it 300. This one is a 5, and so we use this a lot of times for parking lots. We use 5 a lot in parking lots. And then you see there's a gap, and if we do the 0 fillet, it joins them together. So that's the fillet. H for hatch. If we have an area, I can hit C for close to close that polyline. H for hatch. Now it's taking a while to analyze because there are a lot of things on my screen. If you zoom in and hit H, it's going to analyze much more quickly. And I can either pick inside here and it'll select that object and then right click and I'm done. Or I'll show you another way. This solid, we can change this to different things. ANSI 31. And where is my hatch scale? I usually use a properties tab, which is off the screen and you can't see it. I'm going to change that to a much bigger scale. So you can see that's like a diagonal striping. We use that for striping in parking lots. If you use the hatch scale of 20 and the ANSI 31, that will, there it is, where's the ANSI 31, that will be the appropriate size hatching for handicap parking and striping lights. You could also hit H and then do S for select objects and then pick it that way. Okay, L for line, MA for match properties. So let's say this guy was red, MA, select your source, that guy, paint it there. It's like a painting tool, and you also have it right there. You can pick this, pick what you want, and then paint that property back to something else. Okay, going over to the other side, M for move. Another way you can move, once you've selected this, if you grab one of these nodes, you could just move the nodes, but if you press the space bar, it's going to toggle to move. Press it again, it's going to toggle to rotate. Press the space bar again, it's going to toggle to scale. Press it again, it's back to rotate, and then press it again and it's back to just moving that node. So again, grabbing this, one space bar is another way you can move. MT is for mtext. Mtext creates text that has a specific size, and if you explode this, it becomes regular text. mtext will wrap to the next line automatically if you set the window however big you want that. MT, let's put it this big. And so you can see it wraps to the next page, or to the next line. But if you explode it, then it's back to just individual pieces of text. Also, if it's mtext, you can set background mask through the Properties tab, and which is down here, background mask. Use background mask, yes. One sets the background mask exactly as big as your box of text, and then use background color. And so now that will just block out exactly what your text. If you can center your text. A lot of times we like centered text. If you're describing an area, like if you have text for a building or a parking lot, you want the text to be centered in this space here. Okay. Polyline join all, or PJJ. So let's say we've drawn a few lines and these are all individual lines. We can use PJJ to join them together. Polyline width, PW, 10, makes the line wide. Sometimes if your screen isn't showing up correctly, you can hit RE for regen, and that does a quick regen. Or if that doesn't work, you could try regen all, and then that'll go one step further, really regenerating everything on your screen. I'm skipping a few of these because I just don't use them frequently, but you should be trying all of these commands and to see what you can do. Okay, Rev C. We use this in model space a lot for Rev clouds. Let's say we, wanted to cloud this area of the drawing. Rev C, and you always want to pick A for arc length to set the arc length. In model space, or sorry, in paper space or the layout space where we are here, these are layout spaces, I always use 0.2, and then you can pick that, and then that's the appropriate size Rev cloud for clouding your revisions. Then we have the rotate command. We can rotate it around, or RP, so I can rotate this side of the line to match that line. Now just to kind of show you how this works, if I pick this side of the line and match it to this side, this thing's going to rotate a full 180 degrees. So it does matter which side of the line you pick. So RP, I'll pick this side of this line and this side of that line, and it's going to rotate the thing 180 degrees. So that's another type of rotation tool. Scale, SC, you can scale big or small, or you could just type 3 and it's going to go 3x. Or you could scale 1/12, and now it's 1/12. The S command is pretty neat. S to invoke the stretch command, and whatever nodes you pick are the ones that you're going to be able to move around. So remember, it's based on grabbing nodes. Grab these two nodes, only those two nodes move, the other ones stay alone. So that's a really interesting command. And then of course trim, TR, and it just trims off. It automatically picks a line to trim with. It didn't used to do that, but you can go back to the old way if you do T for cutting edge. So now I can pick a cutting edge and then go back and pick a line. It's few instances when you really need to do that. Then UCS. If you want to save a UCS, so let's say my site is drawn to this orientation here, and so all of my parking and everything is oriented this way. I can set my UCS to this, type UCS, S for save. I'm going to name that site. And now when I toggle through my UCS, there's my view, that's what my screen is. There's world, you can see world always has a little square there in the corner. And then Control Shift middle button to toggle through UCS, and now you can see it's changed to that site, which is this line. So now I can draw a line and it's exactly that again. and I can also hit UCS D for delete. What's the name? Site. And now I can toggle through them with Control Shift middle button, and there's only View and World, which are the same thing. So, and then Zoom Extents, ZE. Let's see, did that work? ZE. There we go. It zooms out so that everything in your on your screen, or sorry, everything in your model space or in paper space are shown at the same time. Now we'll scroll down and get into some custom commands. So ATC is one of my favorite commands. I had this one written specifically for drawing truck paths when I wanted to go down, like, you know, let's say you had a parking lot and a bunch of spaces going down this side, and I wanted to be, you know, exactly 6 feet off, and then I wanted the truck to turn and go around the corner. So you type ATC, and then you pick your radius. A lot of times we use 41 for trucks. And then I pick the object. So I'm going to have a line come out of here tangent to this line, and it's either going to curve down this way or it's going to curve up this way. So I need to pick the side that I want it to curve. If I pick this side, it's going to curve out this way. Now the line actually looks opposite, but don't worry about that. It's actually going to come out this way in the direction of my cursor. So when I click that, there it is. Now if I run it again, click that line and click this way, it's going to come out this way. So that's a really neat command. You could make that tangent there, and then I could fill it with another 41 between this guy and that guy, and then it just makes two smooth curves. So that's a pretty interesting command. All right, B acres, which we also have a quick key of AAA, and so I can click that. This thing is a ton of acres. Let me draw something that's a little bit smaller. So you can hit C to close. AAA. So that is a 1/4 acre, and it's 11,000 square feet, and the perimeter is 470 feet roughly, or units. Our units are always feet. Okay, the command BB breaks the line. So now I have a break there. BB break. Now I have another break there. BR breaks and leaves a gap. B elevation and B elev2 are kind of custom commands. We'll do a separate video. Actually, I have a takeoff, earthwork takeoff video where I go through that command, and so we'll skip that one for now. Let's say we have a parking lot and curb and gutter on a road, and it does like this, and then maybe has some parking spaces here, and that's our curb line. We can use the CC command to create the gutter line and the back of curb. So if you want to make changes to this, do not delete or don't explode these, because now you have to pick all of these individually to delete them. What you want to do is just delete the front and the rear one with delete, and then you can explode this one and make changes anytime you want. We saw the offset command, offset 5, and I saw something interesting happen that I want to tell you about. So the offset command simply just offsets things, and if you have curves, that's fine. OG for offset gap type. OG is the quick key. You usually want to leave this off at 0. And when you do that, I'm going to hit O for offset again and pick 10. It just fillets this to a 0. Well, let's say you have a property line that does like this, and you need a 25-foot building setback. Well, that's technically not correct, because from this property line to there, where you're showing the offset, that's 36 feet. That's not 25 feet. So it really needs to be rounded. If your building setback is 25, it needs to be rounded. And the way you do that is with OG. You turn it on, and then O for offset. It's already set at 25. We offset it, and so it fillets around corners with whatever radius you've selected. Now, when I tried to run this dimension command, you can see that it came in really small. We will fix that a little bit later with two commands, LT scale and civdim. Civdim loads our dimension styles. So we'll just remember that for the future, and we'll get back to that. CG matches layer properties. It's a little bit like match MA, but it's not quite as powerful. We usually use it to match layers and colors. That's its primary function. And then there's also EG, which matches elevation. So let's say this line is at a 50 elevation, and that didn't go through, 50, and this line is not. I can use EG and match that elevation. Now when I click here, that's a 50 elevation. CHE is to change elevation. It goes in steps of 2. Well, it defaults to 2, but you can change that to anything you want. So if I say 2, I run that, now it's 4. Right click, run it again, pick the next one. Now it's 6. Right click, pick the next one. Now it's 8. So it's going to step 2 every time I do it. You can change that 2 to any positive or negative number that you want. CHEL is another command where you can change the elevations of a bunch of contour lines at the same time by telling them which direction you want to go. Kick, you can count a bunch of parking spaces, and it'll tell you down below how many you've counted, so that helps when you're counting a large number of parking spaces. LP is label property line. So LP, pick the object, and that's exactly how long the line is to the hundredth of a unit. And then I drew it in this direction, so that was south and then to the east. South 49 degrees, 54 minutes, 16 seconds to the east. You can also use this if you had an entire parcel, and then you run LP and it spits them all out. If that was too big, you can type text, and I have, text size. I have mine set to 5. I could change that to 3, and then when it's 3 and I run LP again, they're smaller. So remember, text size will tell you how to set your text size. LP1 just does dimensions, and it rounds to the nearest foot and puts a plus minus in there. And then there's also LP0, and that one just does feet, but it doesn't have the plus or minus symbol there. LP legal, we can write a legal description. Property line, we're going to draw this in this direction. And actually, let's make this a little bit easier. We'll do it like this. And then I'll grab that LP legal, select the polyline, this guy, and there it spits out the legal description. So you always want to have a point of beginning and a point of commencement for a legal description, and so it leaves that part out because it didn't know where it is, but it started here, and this says thence for a distance of 235 feet to a point, then due east, and then it said due north for a distance of 209 feet to a point, then due west for a distance of 211 feet to a point, then south 6 degrees west for a distance of 211 feet, and then it comes back and tells you the acreage and the acreage. A lot of times we might add that dimension in square feet if it's a small area. And then label radius, LR. You just pick the radius, and it spits out with the radius. Now, if you notice something, text or anything coming in at a weird angle, it's probably because my units are in radians and not degrees, minutes, seconds. So if I type units and decimal degrees. Actually, they're not in radians. So that's what we want, decimal. Keep that to the 4 places. Usually we want this in surveyor units, and then degrees, minutes, seconds. And hit OK. Let's try that again. LR for radius. Yeah, that's a little bit odd. I don't know why it's doing that. Rotation, it's at 10 degrees. Yeah, I don't know why that is coming in at an angle like that. Usually it would be if the units were set up with radians, which we don't want it to be. Every once in a while you'll find that it's changed to radians. Okay, and then this is an interesting one. So you need to use this for contour lines. Actually, I need to make these much smaller. So if you have contour lines, you'll see that every time it hits a node, it's starting over, and a lot of times it just looks like it's solid for a little bit. If you hit PG for generate continuously, and you say yes, Y for yes, now it doesn't start the line type over at every node. It just continues with that line type no matter how many nodes it goes through. So you'll need that one. That one's interesting. All right, if we set our UCS to this direction here and hit plan, it's going to leave the UCS the same, but it's going to change that UCS to match our plan view is now whatever that UCS was. Plan, enter, enter, and now we're lined up with this red line. If we want to go back, we can just hold Control Shift middle button and toggle back to world. I know I'm in world because I see that square there, and then I hit plan, enter, enter, and now I'm back to the normal view. Okay, PLCC offsets lines to create thicknesses for pipes or retaining walls. So let's say you had some pipes or a retaining wall like this, and it was 2 feet thick, and if you use PLCC, it's going to offset that, I think, 0.2 of a unit. And even if you have pipes or retaining walls that are striped or have some sort of different thing like that, PW3, PLCC will offset and then create that solid line. And you see I have offset gap turned on, OG. I need to change that back to 0. Really, the only 2 reasons you should use offset gap type set to 1 is for like building setbacks and stream buffers. And occasionally there may be another use, but those are the two primary reasons to use it. PLCC, and that's how it will normally look. Okay, purge end. I gave you a preview of that one before. Purge end deletes entities that are registered in your drawing but aren't active objects. So you might delete an image. Well, the reference is still there even though you deleted the image. Purge end cleans all that stuff out. And it can create errors when you purge it out. So after you run purge end, just get in the habit of running audit, and that'll help keep your drawing clean. If your drawing ever acts funny and just does something weird, just always purge end and audit. Actually save first and then purge end and audit, and many times that fixes the problem. If that still doesn't fix the problem, close AutoCAD out, reopen it, and then 99 times out of 100 that will solve your problem. Okay, we have this command called selay, and the quick key is ZX. And with this, there's lots of different functions to turn things off and on. If you type S and hit the space bar, it'll toggle between the selected and rest. So if it's selected, anything that you select is going to turn off that layer. If you have rest, anything that you select is going to turn everything else off. Now all of these are on the 0 layer, and 0 is our active layer, so it can't turn the 0 layer off. This one's a little bit hard for me to show you right now because we don't have a ton of layers active. Middle button YA is to turn everything on, so you can see I can And the great thing about this command, you can go multiple layers deep. So I can turn this one off, then I can turn that one off, then I can turn that one off, then I can turn these off, then I can turn those off, and then I can go hit the command again and don't select anything, and it's going to back up one step. So that's very helpful with converting surveys. SumZ counts up these parking space numbers. So you double click on it, 3 for this row of parking spaces, 12 for that row, and maybe 9 for that row. Select them, SumZ, that's the layer, hit enter, and you can see it says I have 4 blocks. I have 25 spaces in 4 blocks, but it also counted 75 spaces total in 7 blocks in the drawing, and which are probably those right there. We use the round ones for parking, but we do have these others for occasional. Sometimes we may do something different. Maybe you have 2 tenants and you want to categorize each tenant's parking separately, or whatever you want. T2ML. This is another great command. It's very helpful when you're converting surveys, and it takes any piece of text to multi-leader, T2ML, and you pick where you want your arrowhead, and then you pick where you want your text. And so now this is a multi-leader that I can move around however I want. And over here is the styles. Now if I run civ MLS, it'll load my multi-leader styles. So now you'll see 0.08 is our standard that shows up as 0.08 in through the layout space, and then that's how big we want our text to be typically. And then 0.08EX is for existing stuff. We want to use proposed as Calibri, and then when we're doing existing items, we want that to be simplex. One of the ways that we help make our drawings intuitive is by having all the proposed stuff in bold and existing stuff in a thin simplex layer. And then TA for some text. This doesn't work with mtext, but it works with regular text, so I'm going to turn that into regular text. Type TA. I can grab that, and then I can, maybe pick 2 points along a line, and it'll rotate it to match whatever whatever I've selected. You can also use TE for text east, and it'll make the text east again. Okay, so now we're back to our custom mouse functions. I'll show those one more time just because it's so important. Middle button, control middle button starts a line. Shift middle button toggles UCS, and then control shift middle button sets the UCS. The middle button D, I don't use that a whole lot, so I'll need to practice that. I'm not going to show you that today. Then going up here to these icons. So this, let's say we have a solid hatch here, and this line is there. If I take this and hatch and send it to the top, the blue means it's on top. It covers up that line and I can't see it anymore. If I want to move the line back on top, I can click that. If I want to send this to the back of everything, now it goes behind this white line and that line. So sometimes you need to mess with your draw order to make things show up the way that you want, and you use those two to do it. That was match properties, MA. That is just the color, that's just the line type. This one is, I actually forget which this one is. Looks like it's Design Center. I don't use that a whole lot right now. This one is Tool Palettes. This one is Show Tool Space, I believe. The icon disappeared. Yeah, Show Tool Space. Show Tool Space is this one that has a bunch of Civil 3D stuff in it. So if you're working with Civil 3D, you'll be familiar with that tool space. Then here we've got the Properties tab, which is this guy. You'll definitely want to have that on all the time. So I like to open up multiple of these dialog boxes. I usually have properties, external references, which I think is IM to start for images. I have layer properties, and then the show tool space. And I keep those open on a screen to my left so that I have a big screen here to work with. And then I can view all this information on another screen. Okay, then we have a few different types of dimensions. Oh, let's show this dimension. So LT scale, you need to set that for the size drawing that you have. So if you have a 30 scale drawing, you'll set LT scale to 30, and then if you run civ dim, now it'll load all your styles to a 30 scale drawing, which is like that. And then here's a radius, so we can pick the radius between these two things. That's 5 degrees. We could do this type of radius, 41, and then a regular dimension, which you can do any direction, but it still shows the text horizontal. This one I use far more than anything else. I almost use that one exclusively. This one, if you just want to measure between two things real quick, boom, 105. So a lot of people draw a line, select a line, look at the length, and delete the line. Really all you need to do is just pick that, and then just click 2 points. Tells you how long it is. This one's interesting. Let's say you have some parking spaces, and then you have an odd size island, and you want to make an exact circle there. You can do this. It's really drawing a circle and then telling it 3p, then asking you for the tangent, then waiting for an input, then asking for the other. And so you have lots of different functions just built into one button. And so you can pick those 3 things, and then it instantly does that. And then you can hit trim, and then just trim that out. This one again is a no trim fillet. So if I fillet these two, it doesn't trim in there. And then this one is a trim, and so it trims off that extra piece. This one does the 5 with a trim, and then this one does 0 with a trim. This one is total length. So if I have a line and maybe it's not quite the right length, this one is 6 feet and I want it to be 10, I can click that, hit 10, boom, now it's 10. If I had picked the other end of the line, pick that, 10, it does the other end. This one lengthens however you want from whichever end you grab, so that one's kind of useful. And then delta extension, I can hit 5, and every time I click it, it's going to go up by 5. And you can do any line you want. And then I like to turn on the multi-leader buttons, and then over here I have the layer buttons. So try to keep the toolbars pretty minimalistic, and you're going to be much faster if you don't click a bunch of buttons and instead you rely on quick keys. Okay, I gave you a little preview of LT scale. That should be set to match your drawing scale. So let's just say this was our preliminary drawing, and I click in here, and this is our project. And I can set the scale of this drawing in a few ways. Z, enter, 1/30xp. So now if I click out of this and click the viewport, I can see that that's a 30 scale. I could also have just set that by clicking here and then going to a 30 scale. So there's always multiple ways of doing a lot of things. If that's a 30 scale, then this guy needs to be a 30 scale as well to match that. And then my LT scale in model space needs to be, so we'll go back here to model space, needs to be LT scale. Oops, LT scale. That needs to be 30. And so now when I run civ dim, again, the dimension shows up correctly. Here are my dimensions. And then if I run civ MLS, it loads those multi-leader styles. So I have it 0.8. I can select this guy, type whatever I want. You can see those are the same size. I can click this to add lines or that one to delete lines. So that's a pretty good tool. So PSLT scale should typically be set to 0. I'm sure there's instances where it's not. Usually that stands for paper space LT scale, so usually PSLT scale. So usually you might check it. If line types look weird, check that in your paper space. And then I just went over Civ MLS and Civ Dim. If you want to load all of your layers like this, you run the command civ lay. And we pretty much always just hit F for full, and it loads all of our layers. Just like that. Purge in will get rid of any things that aren't used, so there's a lot of layers that just got wiped out because we weren't using them and we ran purge in. C sheet is the command to toggle through different layering setups for different sheets. This is not a good drawing to show you with because I don't have a full project in here, but if we hit CS, S for site, you can see like erosion control stuff turned off. If we go to grading, G for grading, certain, well, I don't even know if I have any grading things in here, but certain things turned off and on. U for utility, CS, U for utility, CS 1, 2, and 3 for erosion. So that's phase 2, CS1, that's phase 1, and then middle button YA to turn everything back on. Now when you're setting up your sheets, there's commands. Basically the way our layering system works, when you plot in paper space, everything is going to be turned on in model space, and then each viewport is just simply going to filter out using these viewport filters, viewport overrides, which layers don't show up. And so the way you set that is you run the command CSVP, and it says I recognize this as grading, and the grading is restored. If you wanted to do all of them at the same time, you do CSVP all, and then you can see it recognized the demolition sheet, it recognized the grading, the utility, and the preliminary site. Sometimes you might want to do a custom layering set, and so you might put an underscore in front of here so that it doesn't recognize the name. And now if we run CSVP, it says that's not a valid name, so it didn't change anything. But say I wanted to set this up like a utility plan, I could type CSVP1, and sorry I didn't spell that right, CSVP1, set it up like the utility, and then I could make maybe a minor change to show something on the grading, and so now maybe this sheet shows grading and utility. So CSVP1 allows you to manually set that sheet. Then a few commands, VP lock. So if we select this and we type VP lock, it's gonna, if you right click, you're gonna unlock all the viewports, and so now all of these viewports are unlocked. I can look right here and see display locked no. If I hit VP lock and left click, now they're all locked. This one's locked, and I go over to this sheet, that one's locked as well. And so you can also see the layer is on viewport. So for all of our normal sheets where the viewport is exactly the same, you want them all to be on the same viewport layer. If you have a different view for something, let's say maybe a DOT plan that's at a smaller scale, you might put those on the second viewport. If you have a blow up, another viewport with a blow up of utility, you'll want to make another viewport of that. The point is, don't have different looking viewports on the same layer, because when you run the next command, VP match, it matches every viewport to be exactly the same that's on the same layer. So an example of this, so displays are locked, so I need to run VP lock to unlock it. I'm going to right click to unlock them all. So now they're all unlocked. I can double click in here, pan around, find my site. I'm going to do Z 1 over 30 XP, which means 1 over 30 times paper space. Sorry, zoom, enter, 1 over 30 XP. And let's move our site around to get it lined up exactly like we want. Now I can get out of here. Now I'll run VP match, and you can see it says 4 viewports were on this layer and they were all matched. and now I can run VP lock. You always want to lock your viewports. VP lock once you get them set up so you don't accidentally change them. Left click to lock. So now this one is locked, and now I can go look at my other sheets. Yep, set up exactly the same. Yep, it's locked. Let's go over to this one. Yep, exactly the same, and it's locked. Now it looks a little bit different. It basically matches the center point from there to there. This one, this line is in a slightly different location. The others were more like that. But you can move this line around because the center is based upon the top and the bottom and the left edge and the right edge there. Okay, with object snaps, I highly recommend not to have your snaps clicking on everything. What you want to do, I guarantee you'll be faster if you stay disciplined to this, and that is to, when you want to snap, hit middle button, space, middle button, space, and then E for endpoint, or if you wanted to snap to the R as the nearest, or if you wanted to snap to G, the tangent, and pick your snaps individually for only the one you want, because when drawings get clogged up with a lot of lines, there's just lines everywhere, and you really just want to pick the specific one you want. So here you can see just a little quick key on which line types there are and what the letter is. So again, you're drawing a line, middle button, space, M for midpoint, or middle button space P for perpendicular, middle button space R for nearest, middle button space E for the endpoint. So there's some options. So that's it. That's a quick run through with the primary commands list. That should give you a brief overview of how to try these commands, and make sure to run through all of those, do them every day until you're proficient with them all, and then we'll continue to make some videos showing some more custom commands and some more of the more complicated commands, so that you can learn to become a fast drafter. So that's it for today. Thanks so much.